Well, hello everybody, and welcome again to the Artistry House, where we've got David Calvert on the line at the moment, who won Portrait Photographer of the Year. So a big congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And we have your trophy here.
Oh, fabulous, fabulous.
Which will, unfortunately, would love, as I've said to everybody else, would love to be able to give it you and hand it over at the photography show, where we would have done it in the Graphic Studio Pro Lounge. But obviously, for all the reasons that we all kind of on lockdown, that wasn't possible. But many, many congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Amazing picture. I've got it here. The reason I'm showing this one on screen at the moment like this is that you just can't believe the print quality and the level of detail in it is amazing. But what I am going to do is going to bring up a digital version, and David, if you don't mind, you can talk us through it, and
sure.
We'll all learn a lot, I'm sure. So there we go. There
he is, Elvis. He's one of my favourite dogs. I've got a big 30-inch print of him in the studio. He was owned by a local client, and he was a bit boisterous when he first came in, but he began to settle down towards the end. So we thought we'd just try and do something. In terms of you want to sort of know about the setup and everything like that?
I think so. I think that a lot of people will be really interested. And what one of the judges was saying about the separation that you managed to get from the background.
I think with this one, the sort of lighting setup and everything, I was very much inspired by Paul Wilkinson's hearing dogs portraits. I don't know if you've ever seen them.
I'm a very good friend of Paul's, and he was actually one of the judges on the
right.
To be honest, I'm not sure if he was judging at this point, but yeah, I know exactly.
Because he uses dark backgrounds for his dogs and everything, and they are absolutely stunning. I was quite inspired by that. But what he does, he uses like a couple of kick lights, just to rim lights, just to help separate the subject from the background. And I really like dark backgrounds. I use the background used on this was a sort of a dark grey Colorama background, and it is literally with one head. I use Elinchrom, it's an ELC Pro HD head, which are fantastic heads. And if I recall correctly, it's an Elinchrom 70 centimeter deep octa modifier. It's quite a soft light, but it actually is quite strong and crisp, and it's if you want to bring out detail on something, it's a good way of doing it. And with these sort of shots, I noticed Elvis had quite a good sort of glossy coat, so it reflected light. So what we've effectively got here is the light is, we've actually recorded the light reflected, that it's the sheen that we're recording in the picture, rather than the fur. So it was literally one light slightly above him. I think he was sitting on a table, because I quite like to get eye level with the dogs, and he's just looking at his owner. So you can see the catch light at the top of the eye.
Yes.
And said it's relatively close to him, and I think if I recall correctly, I had a small reflector just below him. If you look in his eyes, you can see a little ping in his at the bottom of his eye.
And that was just throwing some light back on his.
Yeah, just literally throwing some light, because otherwise, what would have happened under his neck and just below his at the lower half of the picture, that would have gone dark. So that it was just a little bit of a lift, and that's a lighting setup I've used a lot. It's literally the light which is positioned above the camera, and then a silver reflector just to lift the chin, or just to give a little ping in the eye. It's a lighting setup I've done for years. I nicked that off Terry O'Neill back in the about 25, 30 years ago. But it always looks really, really effective. And he had those lovely sort of brown eyes as well, which came through. So it almost looks like selective colouring, spot colouring, but it isn't. That is a pure colour photo. So there's been no sort of desaturation, I don't think, on the shot. In terms of the post-production, a textured background's been added to the photo.
Yeah.
I've just put a light texture on that because it makes the grey background. If you don't have it, it just makes the grey background look a little bit dark. It's a little bit bland, sorry. So I just add a slight texture to the background, and I just did enhance the sheen a little bit by just a little bit of dodging. But again, very, very careful not to overdo it. And also, if you look on his nose, he's got a little hot spot on his nose. That was just pulled back a little bit. It was a little bit too shiny, a little bit distracting. So we just pulled that hot spot back a little bit. So it just blended in a little bit better with the rest of it. You mentioned about the quality of the print. It was printed by the Print Foundry. They do all my competition entries on fine art paper, and they also did my fellowship panel. Their fine art prints are absolutely fantastic and very competitively priced as well. And I think it was, if I recall correctly, I think it was printed on Hahnemuller fine art rag or something. Something was it called? Photo rag, fine art photo rag, I think it's called. Which has just a very, very light texture, so you still see the detail in the print.
And your customers obviously were I guess over the moon with the finished product.
They absolutely love the photo of it. Funny enough, though, they didn't choose this photo. They chose another one. I think it's funny actually, because the ones that have done quite well for me in competitions, sometimes clients don't like. They always go for something else. They chose a slightly more a shot of him where he was a little bit more in profile.
Yeah.
And they had a black and white one of that, I think. But they're obviously absolutely thrilled to bits because they love him to bits. And he was still quite young. He's about 2 years old, so he's still a bit lively. But but they were absolutely thrilled with it.
No, it's a beautiful, beautiful shot. And David, your business kind of makeup is a lot of kind of pets and stuff, or you do?
Well, funny enough, I don't do that many pets, but I always really enjoy it when they come in. Ironically, I was supposed to be photographing a family with their St. Bernard this weekend, but that's not happening now.
No.
But I do a few pets, mainly dogs. In fact, all dogs. I don't think I've had any other animals in, but it's not. My core business is family portraits. So occasionally they will say, can we bring a dog in? And that's cool with me. Always like to, and I always love having dogs in because they normally cause complete mayhem, and I can sit back and think, well, it's not my fault. It's it's someone else's fault to deal with. But I always enjoy it. But when I do photograph pets, I always like to photograph them straight onto camera, so their noses are straight onto camera, almost like a mug shot.
Yes.
Photographing people straight on is something I do a lot. I think it looks very strong and very symmetrical. So it's something I really like to do. But I wasn't able. He wouldn't look at me. He was more interested in the doggy treat, and his owner was had. So I didn't get a straight on shot in this case, but the head at the 45-degree angle looks fab. But I'd love to do more dogs, and possibly this, winning this, I can publicize it a little bit more.
So coming back to entering the print competition, because you entered quite a lot of prints, and I know you got bronzes and everything. What is it that kind of drives you to enter the print? How do you find them value? Is it in? I've had an interesting conversation with Gavir earlier today about he shoots certain stuff that he wants to release to generate interest from his customers, and other stuff he actually shoots from himself to drive his creativeness, and also that he wants to enter into competitions, which is kind of two kind of different reasons for shooting different things, which is fascinating, to be honest. And I just thought about with you entering, is it the stuff that you're entering is the stuff that you're shooting every day, or do you actually sometimes shoot for competitions? And what do you feel you get out of entering these kind of competitions, besides being portrait photographer of the year, of course?
It's in terms of shooting for competitions and shooting and standard client shoots, it's a mixture of both.
Yeah.
This one was a commission shoot. It was actually my brief was really to photograph. They had some children, and they wanted some portraits of them and the family together. So that was the prime thing. And I think Elvis was, you know, they said, oh, can we bring Elvis as well? So we did it. And it just so happened I got an absolute killer shot. What I tend to do, if it's a shot that appears from a commission shoot, it's obviously I get the main shots done first,
Yeah.
you know, as per the client's brief, because obviously you shoot for them.
Yeah.
But if there's something interesting about the client, you know, if they're wearing a bit of some nice clothes or an interesting outfit or something springs to mind, then I will say at the end of the shoot, if they're still talking to me, you know, can we just try this? So or sometimes just something happens and I get something good. Occasionally I will, although I haven't done it much, I'm a terrible procrastinator, and I think, oh, I must do some personal shoots, because if you shoot the same thing over and over again, and it's no disrespect to my clients, but sometimes you fall into a rut and you start shooting the same thing over and over again. And if you just do a personal shoot and get someone in who's different, it just helps. You can try stuff out like lighting setups or different, like for instance, using the deep 70 centimeter deep opter. I've started to use that in family portrait shoots, and that's because I was playing around with it in a personal shoot.
Yeah.
In terms of the entries I did to the BIP Awards, I think about half, I entered about 10 shots, and about half were sort of from personal shoots, and the other half were from actual commission shots.
Yeah, interesting, very interesting. So we've got just a couple of minutes left, David.
Sure.
I just wanted to, obviously, we're in unprecedented times now, and what I've been kind of saying to the people who've won categories, and just to help and maybe give us some advice to all our other members out there, if you could give a piece of advice to help them through the next few weeks, what would that be?
Oh, yeah.
I know it's a tough question.
Because it's a difficult one, because none of us been in this situation before.
And you've also admitted that you're a procrastinator as well.
Oh yeah, I think first of all, I think we've got when I set up the business, I first started in the photographic industry about 30 years ago. I mainly did commercial work. I did beer cans mostly. Right. And I made the terrible mistake of I got myself some nice plush offices and everything like that, and then the recession hit in the late 80s, and it all went wrong, and I gave photography up for about 10 years, and then back in 2003 I went back into it again. And but I sort of vowed to myself that I wouldn't make the same mistake by taking on something which was too high overhead. So I work from home now, with very little overheads and everything like that. So I'm in that sort of fortunate position. But what I've been trying to do is trying to keep myself positive, that it is going to get better. It's going to take time. Thankfully, my clients have been really understanding, and I've emailed them all, and they've all emailed back saying definitely want to come back, but you know, when everything is sorted. But what I'm trying to do with my time is, for instance, I'm starting to shoot for stock now. Mm-hmm. So I've got plenty of time to do that. I actually live out in the countryside. So I've got a field at the moment. They've just ploughed it and they've seeded it. So when the tractor goes past with the seed sow, I'm photographing that, or I'm doing a skyscape or something. So I'm doing that. I'm also learning some new software. I'm redesigning my website. Yeah. I'm learning some new software at the moment. So I'm doing that. I would like to do some more personal shoots, but with portraits, but unfortunately I'm not allowed to have anyone here. But the only thing I'm going to be forced to do my accounts very soon, so I've got to do that. But I think it's just trying to remain a positive attitude. I'm also cutting back on certain things. So if I'm subscribed to something which I don't think I need anymore, I've cancelled subscriptions on that to keep the costs down. But I'm you know, we're probably all going to go absolutely stir crazy and get cabin fever and everything. But I said, just trying to keep this positive attitude going on.
And that being said, I think that's possibly, you know, people were saying about the subscription to our institute, but I think it's probably, they're going to need it more now than ever, in that it's going to keep them sane. The videos that we're going to be putting out, the interaction we'll be able to have. I mean,
I agree. I mean, a lot of photographers. I don't know if you know James Musselwhite.
I do, yeah. The Honest Photographer.
He's set up. He's had a Facebook page called The Honest Photographer, and this what I've sort of noticed with photographers, we are actually quite a close knit community.
Yeah.
And I think, like the BIPP, there are people who know more about stuff. Like James did this little podcast, this thing this morning about he got his accountant to talk about you know, tax and everything, that you know, how this is going to affect photographers, what you could claim for, and how it's going to affect limited companies. So things like, you know, I'm going to certainly retain my subscription to the BIPP because it's a great networking tool. So I'm definitely going to do that, and I'm going to be, you know, if you do any videos or anything like that, I'm certainly going to be tuning in. And I said James's ones have been really, really good.
We're actually, I'm actually interviewing James in the next week or so.
Oh, he's great fun. He's very enthusiastic.
Oh, he's absolutely hilarious.
And he's I say this in the nicest possible way, and it's a compliment. He's like a Springer Spaniel. He's very enthusiastic. Everything's great.
Exactly. Well, that's brilliant, David. Thank you very, very much for your time, and once again, congratulations on being our Portrait Photographer of the Year.
Thank you.
And hope you'll have a glass of wine or something bubbly.
I've already had that, yeah.
Well done indeed. And hopefully see you very soon at one of our events.
All right, mate. Thanks a lot.